First of all, I would say thank you very much. It was a last-minute invite by Container Camp Crew, I think. And thank you for Angie, Declan, Chris, and for this opportunity here. And I'm very excited, and when I see this crowd and I see we start discussing this in Australia, I think that's the beginning of a big, big thing. And I'm pretty sure next year we need a bigger space, and we're going to building teams now for containers and for DevOps, or whatever you want to call this thing. And I put this talk in to discuss a little bit about the enterprise side of the things. Okay, remove a little bit from the startups or whatever you want to call this. And so how we can apply this, how we can start using this on the enterprise. First of all, I want to see the hands up thing. Who is from the enterprise, say, more than 100 people company? And okay. And yeah, I think that discussion brings something for these guys, but it's for everyone, because I'm pretty sure many of us here are working as a consultant or working for other companies, and we're going to deal with customers that are not ready for this journey, but we have to discuss these things and how we do that. And that's who I am. I'm a consultant from Cloud Solutions, and I do all this bunch of things, and really more Microsoft side of the things. That's why I'm Azure MVP. And I have been talking about API management, the microservices. I'm an old Linux guy, from early 2000, when the beginning of everything. Then we moved to the enterprise. We started doing more, daily things, and you forget some things. And now, many years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, Linux coming back very strong again. And that's where we are now. We are here discussing about command line tools, discussing about all these things. And that's going back 15 or 17 years, and that's what we used to do. And I think it was the beginning of my career, and now we have another cycle happening. Okay, and but we have this situation, the chicken and the egg situation, in my opinion. We wanted this technology happening, but we don't have the process, we don't have the automation, how we want to call DevOps, and we don't have this ready on the enterprise at least. We can have on product development companies, we can have these on the startups, but we don't have this on the enterprise yet. Okay, we have in maybe 20, 30, or 40% of the enterprise, starting the last 3 or 4 years maximum. And that's changing, it is changing. But how we can make this be faster, and how we can monetize from that, because at the end of the day, many of us are IT guys. We have to work for someone. We have to be providing service, and that's the situation at the moment. And I try to make something here very, we're having these very deep sessions in technology, and I know that some of the guys here, they have no idea what Docker is. That maybe the first time that hearing, about containers, and let's go back a little bit for the enterprise reality of some companies, not all, and they say, you get this DevOps or that developer guide say, automation is essential. Let's create a CI/CD pipeline, and the operation maybe say, pipe what, mate? I have no idea what you're talking about. And we just deploy twice a year. We are not Google. How many people had this before? I'm not Google. We are not Google. Yeah? You guys laughing there. That's the reality. And then it's not because they are wrong or right. There's no right or wrong here. It's just a transition. We have another cycle happening. Every time that have a new cycle in technology, we have to rediscuss and have to, 5 years ago, we never discussed about DevOps. Now we have a position called DevOps. Become something, and now we have to reorganize the companies, at least for the enterprise side, that's not doing that 100% yet, and how we work on these things. And they say that as well. Whole single instance, we have backups, yeah? The guy said, no, we just have one single instance here, we deploy, maybe we deploy again in 5 years, or, if the server crash, you get the backup, restore the VM, all done. Anyone doing that here? Anyone see that in your company or not yet? Come on, guys. You know that's true, okay? And the guy say, okay, let's create a PowerShell script and deploy that manually. Yeah, that happened or not? Let's just automate. Let's create a PowerShell, and you just click there and install everything, install the backup, and it works. That's the problem. And I know many people say here now, we're not doing that anymore, we move away, we have DevOps teams, and because you guys are here. But people that are outside here, okay, we are here, the guys that are going to change the things. And we don't have many people doing that here. But outside, we have many people still doing these things. And what's the solution for that? I see stakeholder commitment. And as one thing, we have to create DevOps team to support developers. How are we going to do that? Many people are doing that already, but okay, DevOps that I'm calling here could be any way that you want that works for your company, okay? And all these levels of DevOps, application packaging, orchestration, DevOps, or whatever you want to call. Depends on how you're going to move to the cloud, if you're going to do on-premise, and you have to organize this. And create and document your process. If you can't understand this new process of containers, how we deploy, how we orchestrate, a lot of things that we're not going to do anymore. Okay, and we have to do something with this guy that was clicking next, next, next. And he has to learn something and move to another different area to learn something different. And we have as well to select priority projects to start doing that. Look, we talk about enterprise. We talk about a company with a few different development teams in different locations, using different technologies. We have to have priorities. We cannot do that everywhere. Okay? The company is not going to finance and do that everywhere. People say, let's do that in new projects. Not just for new projects. We can get something that's on the go, or even is running on the cloud already, and you can move these to, just change the way that we do the things. And normally say DevOps is operation cost, not a project cost. And I know that in enterprise, still many companies working as a project development, where you have a budget for this project, and we put a team together for that project. When you finish, we do a transition for the operation, and we have some operation, OpEx budget that you're going to maintain this thing. But that's not going to work like that forever. If you don't have a team that's going to be across all the projects and giving knowledge for these things and sharing the cost, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to work. And many companies are already doing that transition. When I say containers ready approach is, even if you're not going to use containers from the beginning, but have to be ready for that. Okay, we have to design something, you have to prepare your team that on the first opportunity you're going to move to containers. If you design something and starting, getting tools and investing in training for those tools and that are not container ready, you're just wasting your time because, there's another cycle happening. And why we start doing something that you're going to do again? Then just think about, because that's happening. If you are here, you think that's not happening, it's going to happen. Okay, I think most of us believe on that. And I was amazed when the Google talk here yesterday said they have 2 million containers in production, yeah? Or more. And I'm going to show something that Microsoft released that I don't know how many, but I think it's a huge Kubernetes cluster. And the containers first deployment tools in hybrid scenarios. And we're not going to deploy something for enterprise that's just container. They still having database, Oracle database, or whatever that's running on physical machines. They're not going to move these to, to containers overnight. They're not. They are huge database or other things that, and we're going to have to deal with these hybrid environments where maybe will be some things in containers, some things in VMs, some things in physical machines. And I don't think we have the tooling ready, to do all these things. Now you have new tools that can deploy nicely in containers. But in the other things, then we need another tool on top of this one. And maybe another one because this one cannot do it, then have one on top of the other. In some stage, we're going to fix that, but and it's getting better and better. What's another one? Containers are awesome. The guy, the developer comes, containers are awesome, have to use that. I just came back from Container Camp conference last week, and that's the next thing. And let's consolidate our VMs using containers. Look this CLI tool. CLI? No way, mate. It's 2017. Who had that before? Yeah, that's because maybe the operations say that, but the development manager said, no way. We're not going back to the CLI times, and people tell me this all the time. Okay, and where's the GUI? No buttons. There's no buttons here. You have to type everything. You have to do a script. And they say, okay, let me know when they release or GUI, then when they release a GUI for that. Someone asked here for Brendan Burney yesterday, where's the Kubernetes version 2 coming? Yeah, and that's the option. Yeah, oops, it's open source. I have no idea when the next version is coming. And another thing, I need a Kubernetes cluster to deploy these container tools. Helm, you need to deploy Helm somewhere. And these things say, bloody hell, everything's a container now. Just do manually for now, okay? He's going to ask, just say, do manually now in your local machine. Before go to production, decide that. And that's how people negotiate, some companies still doing like this. And I don't know how to do manually. Many people say that. They say, no, I got this tool. I know how to deploy, doing the tool or CLI command. But, okay, now you ask me to do this on VM. I have no idea. Look, Helm, there is no installation package. There is no next button. There is just this Helm, script that I run and I create a cluster, deploy the product. And I have no idea. Let's create a VM. And they cannot do anymore. Because in 12 months or maybe a little bit more, we're going to get these deployment scripts deployed in a cluster, not like an installation package or anything. It's happening already. What's the solution for that? I think the first thing is open source policies, and we don't have it. The developers just pick the things, and the operation pick, we don't discuss, we just starting doing. And even in enterprise, trust me, I see that. And how we discuss these things, and VMs, and that discussion between VM and containers, they have to understand. If that comes from the developer or it's coming from the DevOps operation team, bringing containers, they have to sit together and discuss, because maybe the developer say, look, man, I'm working here for 25 years. I don't want to learn this anymore, and I just want to, keep doing. It's working, it's running, it's fast. Okay, even if they have a cluster, web farm, what they used to have. And automation tool decision early in the process. Many people just starting. I think Brendan gave an example in workshop on Monday. They say, okay, the developer come, a medium-sized company. He just get this Kubernetes cluster running and deploy something and just not working. It's not working because they haven't discussed, they haven't created any process or use any tool. They just start. He was bashing on the server, installing something, create a container, and he was doing some mistakes there. And then that's basic things. And I get on my Docker meetups, I'm from Melbourne, that people go for meetups the first time, Docker meetup. They go there and we start discussing very deep technology, like we're discussing here sometimes. And they never come back. Anyone saw that? They never come back. They say, these guys are bloody crazy. They don't want to go back to the university. And that's happening every week, every month on our meetups. And I think we have to separate who is the beginner of the experts. If we're going to do a talk, do one talk for beginners or one for experts, and he can leave earlier. Say, look, you don't have to stay if you want to leave. That's a more advanced topic. And he'll be coming back next week. Developers training with focus in application packing. The developer, he doesn't want to know about orchestration, about the servers, machine, CPUs, core. He doesn't care. Who's a developer here? Do you really want to know all these things? Or you want to get all this new technology that's coming on the development and learn the other things? Because we have a lot of things on our plate as well. If you guys just doing operation, let's say, are not having time to follow all these things, imagine a developer that's doing development and is trying to follow all this orchestration thing. They're not going to follow that. Maybe 20%. That's not enough. Okay, we're not talking about 20%. We're talking about technology that you want to be 80, 90% of the cloud. And if we don't have the developers and the operation working together, that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter if it's Linux, Windows, or any technology. And I would propose here at least one container master in your development team. Okay, how deep he's going to go, don't have to go very deep on orchestration, but he has to be the guy that knows, at least Docker file, image, understand the basics. And you don't try to explain the whole thing that you know for 4 years, 4 years, in 1 week. Then he's going to get crazy and he's going to look for another job. That's happening, I'm not joking, that's really happening. People, this guy's coming with the new thing. I'm just going for another job that, be easier. And then I think this container master is something we have to have this guy. If you don't have anyone to duplicate with the team and keeping people motivated, bring something sometimes new and show for the others, they're not going for meetups. Okay? You guys going for meetups and you know that you're going by yourself, yeah? How many people from your company going? Maybe one? But they have 5,000 people in your company, enterprise, and it's just 5 guys going for meetups. How are they going to learn this? Watching videos that's changing every single week, technology changing. You have to remove a lot of things and say, that's it, just look this, forget about the other things. Linux fundamentals if you want to move to Linux. If you have an enterprise just doing Windows, and they have to have at least the basics. They have to know the basics, at least to bash something and to SSH and do some basic things. Maybe for a Linux guy, he's doing that for 20 years or 10 years. He learned that at university, but other guys haven't had that opportunity yet. But it's not that hard. It is? No. We make these buzzwords and try and make, looks like fancy, and that's we are protecting. But at the end of the day, anyone can learn these things. And let's see here, a second. Okay. Still writing. I think one important thing is tooling. Okay, I can't see any thing, ready, 100% ready for containers yet. It's in process. I can see Microsoft doing things. I can see Red Hat with OpenShift.io, and but there's just bits and pieces, and there's lots of other Java platforms doing the same things as well, and. I think Brendan would say the Java developers are getting, more defensive to move to containers because they have all these things already. They can pack the application, they can kind of release. If someone used JBoss Fuse before, they say, oh, I have this isolation, I can roll back versions, I can do things. And I think for me, in my view, like enterprise is all about Java and .NET, maybe, 67%. I don't know the percentage, just guessing here. Sorry, I don't have the numbers. But slow. It's a lot like .NET and Java. It's changing along the years, but still a lot of legacy, a lot of applications there. And if you don't bring these guys for this, for this game, it'll be hard to get the enterprise involved on these things. And I think OpenShift is doing a great job on that. And what happened is at the moment is, this means get always the latest. Yeah, that's what we do. Think about, if you guys are doing that for more than 12 months, think about the tools that you guys used 12 months ago or 18 months ago. Anything change? Think that changed? We have companies here that are like 2 or 3 years old and acquired twice. And I think anyone sitting here can have a startup and be here next year with a nice tool, a nice solution for this thing. I believe that. I really believe that. And I would say the rise of Linux or enterprise, how that's going to happen. Because the Linux will be the operating system of the cloud. Yeah, everyone's moving to Linux, and how can make this happen on enterprise? The first thing they're going to say, we don't have anyone here, that knows Linux. We have maybe 2 or 3 guys, and we don't have enough people with this knowledge. We deploy a lot of things in Windows, or we have Linux for Oracle or for other things. That's how it's changing. But I'm telling what's still running, and then I think if you start doing public cloud projects where we're going to allow bringing all the technology that's going to help. Unix and Linux guy revival, I put that myself on that, kind of a revival of a Linux guy that did that 15 years ago. And you have so many there. I got an Uber like 3 months ago, and the guy's driving Uber, he's 65, and he just retired 7 years ago. Do you know why? Because he said, I couldn't get a Unix administration job. And I told him, look, you know that your stuff, you did Solaris, you did all that thing at the beginning? He said, I did. I said, you can get a job anywhere now, because that's all back. People are looking for people with those skills, and you drive Uber because you don't know. And maybe there are a lot of people that could be working again, with all these Linux and Unix skills that they have. And even inside your team, talk with people and try to find out the background that they have, and just show these things for them. They're going to say, wow, that's easy. That's easy. New generation of engineers. All these Mac users coming, they like these learning tools and CLI. That's going to help as well. .NET Core on Linux, because .NET's used by enterprise. It's easy to get like something that was developed 5 years ago or 7 years ago, and just try to migrate that, because sometimes a very simple code. They can migrate and deploy these inside a Linux cluster, okay? It's not that hard. And .NET now can even deploy on Windows containers. That's another different talk, but I'm going to try to show something if I have time. SQL Server for Linux user containers. They have more than 1 million pulls so far on Docker Hub. And they have SQL Server running that. And people are moving. Yeah, Microsoft is helping people to move into Linux on SQL Server. They don't care. They want to. That's the thing. That's the public cloud. That's the main goal. Yeah, and the product's there now. I'm using a lot Windows subsystem for Linux. I have Linux on my Windows because I need Windows for my work, but I have my Linux now there, natively. That's helping as well. And I'm helping others to do the same. Oh, look, install here. It's there. You have Linux now inside your Windows. Then they going back to the command line thing that we need there. And PowerShell as well. We have all these administrators with PowerShell skills, and now they can use that on Linux as well. That's going to help, okay? Because you need that transition. You need that transition. Java moving to containers with, whatever you call OpenShift or anything, but this one thing can help as well. If you guys never saw this, I put that slide, then you can have the opportunity to have a look. And that's very similar, I think, what that's Windows containers, okay? We have what they call Windows Server containers. That's like a Linux container. And now they're going to be able to run a Linux container inside a Windows machine with this lightweight VM around that Hyper-V, what they call Hyper-V VM. They just create a very lightweight VM to install, containers on Windows servers. That means that Windows will be the only platform that can have Windows and Linux containers running on the same host. I don't think Linux is not going to be able to do that. Okay, how are you going to deal with that? We are discussing containers and still a Linux container be running there. Okay, and how this can help? You're going to have like a Kubernetes cluster with a hybrid, containers. You can have Linux and Windows containers. That's going to happen. I don't think that's released yet, but it's pretty much in preview. And it'll be important for the enterprise. Because you're not going to ask them to create one Linux cluster, another Windows cluster. They're going to have all these, duplicated infrastructure. If they can have just one, then you can deploy all Linux things there as well. Okay, at the end of the day, the kernel will be a commodity. Yeah, we don't even know we don't care anymore about the OS layer, the thing. We don't care. And who cares if it's Windows or Linux? If performance is good, running, okay? Who cares? And that's how they deploy the Azure Container Service with Kubernetes. And one thing I like, they start integrating this with the public cloud, because if you want to move to the cloud, they have load balancers, they have networking, they have everything done. And if you're starting a new project in the enterprise, they say, no, I'm going to create my network, I'm going to create this and this and this. I said, no, we have this already. Okay, the first thing that we do when we go for enterprise, we establish that. We establish networking boundaries, ranges, everything. That's the first thing we do. Okay, we do governance for cloud, we define the networks, we define everything. Maybe we have to, fix some things to make sure that's containers ready, but that's done. Then they can take advantage of that. And not just, for Microsoft or Azure, it will be any cloud, I think. And the funny thing, the master will be a Linux. See, the master on the left is a Linux, and both nodes are like the Windows nodes. Let's see how much time I have. And let's see if I can show here just in a second. Guess not. Yeah, there you go. If you never saw this, but that was released by, see, my session is just out, but I think the Brendan Burns team just released last week at Microsoft Build what they call Cloud Shell on Azure. And that's just a bash shell. I don't want to sell Azure or anything. I just say, this thing is running inside a Kubernetes cluster. And I think that's going to be probably the biggest Kubernetes cluster very soon, because every time that someone clicks there and opens this shell, that's a container inside a Kubernetes cluster. And how many users Microsoft have clicking on this thing? And we have to ask Brendan Burns how many nodes and and how many containers they have so far, because it was released last week, I think, 10 days ago. And then you can measure. You can have kubectl here. I think it's there. Yeah, everything's there. And I think you have Docker, you have Cube, you have the Azure CLI as well. Yeah, Azure CLI is there as well. And then, yep. See, that's the CLI for Azure. Then you can create, they are very keen with command line. But the main thing is, you see that thing here? They say, well, is my, yep. Bash, you're going to click and it'll be PowerShell here, coming soon. That would be a hybrid cluster on Kubernetes. Then when you say PowerShell, they're going to create another containers on Windows, or maybe they don't even have it because they have PowerShell on Linux now, but that's what they're going to do. And I think it'll be a huge, huge cluster there. Yeah, another thing I want to show here quickly, just that to finish is, to create a cluster, just open this shell, and you type these 2 commands here, just one command, you can create a Kubernetes cluster with this thing here. I just want to create a Kubernetes cluster on this resource group that you created before. There's another command. You create a resource group, and you run this command, and you have a Kubernetes cluster on Azure, and that's exactly here. And let's go Kubernetes cluster here. And you can see everything that they create for us. Load balance, networking, availability set, storage accounts, everything. And if you go here, you can see that's just a diagram what was deployed. You can see clusters, you can see exactly, you can click, you can go on the script and see what they created. And those scripts are flexible, you can change, you can customize the way that you create the cluster. And yeah, that's how I see the things, and I see the tooling that I talked before, at least for .NET, side of the things, is you want to go here. Sorry, you go here and you say, publish your, configure your continuous delivery, and you can see, your container register. Okay, you can see your subscriptions, and you can use even different clusters, not just Kubernetes. They provide other kind of orchestration and clusters that you can deploy. And the tooling are improving. That was released I think 2 weeks ago. And that's just like keep improving. How long do we have? Finish? 1 minute? Yeah, just. Yeah, let's open for questions. And thanks. And I can't wait to be here next year. And I hope that you guys come back and bring at least 1 or 2 more. And don't try go back next week and say, look, this container thing's amazing. I didn't understand anything, but it was amazing. The guys are so nice, and they talk, but just go for the meetup next week if you don't get it, the high-level things. And ask the guys, please do like a entry-level session. Let's start again. And let's bring more people for the meetups. And in Melbourne, you have been here doing the Docker meetup with growing numbers every week. And I remember 2 years ago, Ben was like 20 people. Now we have like 100 every month, and or more. And yeah.
Cool. Can we have a big round of applause, please, for George?